Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Teresa Giudice called out while cooking red sauce, "You used jarred sauce." The Real Housewives of New Jersey star Teresa Giudice can't catch a break. However, her recent social media video has made people wonder about her authenticity. Being Italian and cooking has always been a part of the show. Elaborate dinners, pasta, and cookbooks have been a part of the Bravo hit for over a decade. Recently, Teresa popped up on TikTok to show followers how to make red sauce, but it didn't go over as well as she thought it would. She asked her followers to cook with me while showing them the steps she used to make dinner for the family. The RHONJ star said she was making red sauce, but the comment section lit up when she pulled out the jarred sauce. After chopping onions and garlic and sautéing them in olive oil, Teresa Giudice made the sauce. She pulled a jar of sauce and added it to the pot, which caused followers to question what the Real Housewives of New Jersey star was doing. One follower asked, "Wait, you used jarred sauce?" Another posted, "Thought you were making red sauce? I just seen you use a jar of sauce." Teresa replied, "I told you I went to Trader Joe's, so I bought everything from there." After a chaotic season 14 of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, the series is on hiatus as the network decides what to do with the series. Teresa Giudice is the OG of RHONJ. Without her, the show may not have as much appeal as it did. No news is expected until the end of the year or early 2025, but a total reboot isn't out of the question. Andy Cohen has been back and forth about what could happen with the show. Some viewers want to see Melissa Gorga and Rachel Fuda back, calling them the only cast we need. If we had to guess, Teresa Giudice would be back, but her bestie, Jennifer Aydin, may not. Season 14 was riddled with back and forth between Jennifer and Danielle Cabral, and both could be a liability moving forward. Despite Rachel and Teresa's differences, the two can film together without violence, which is a plus. The sticking point will likely be whether Margaret Josephs returns, and who else is asked back. For now, though, Teresa is focused on spending time with her daughters and husband and on her podcast. Teresa Giudice stood at the center of her massive kitchen, her eyes narrowing as she stirred a bubbling pot of red sauce. The rich aroma of tomatoes, garlic, and basil filled the room, wrapping itself around the white marble countertops and the stainless steel appliances that gleamed under the soft kitchen lights. This was her domain, where family traditions passed down through generations came alive, and where love was always stirred into the sauce. But tonight, something was off. Her oldest daughter, Gia, had invited her college friends over for a casual Italian dinner, and Teresa, being the proud Italian mom that she was, had jumped at the chance to make her famous Sunday gravy. However, as she ladled a small spoonful of sauce into her mouth for a taste, her brow furrowed. Something wasn't quite right. It was lacking. The flavors, which were usually so bold and comforting, were subdued, almost flat. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Gia asked, noticing her mom's frown from across the room. "I'm fine, Teresa trailed off, tasting the sauce again, more slowly this time. "Gia, did you?" The doorbell interrupted her thought, and Gia hurried to answer it. The kitchen was soon filled with the chatter and laughter of Gia's friends, their energy buzzing as they dropped their bags and jackets in a heap by the door and gathered around the island. Teresa's hands tightened around the spoon. She couldn't put her finger on it, but the sauce wasn't hers. She had followed the recipe her mother had taught her years ago, the same recipe Nana used in the old country, simmering for hours to achieve that perfect balance of sweet and savory. But the sauce simmering on the stove right now tasted different. Artificial, almost. As Gia and her friends helped set the table, Teresa leaned over the pot, stirring more vigorously. A thought struck her suddenly, a suspicion forming in the back of her mind. "Gia," she called, her voice sharp enough to cut through the chatter. "Come here a minute." Gia hesitated but crossed the room. What's up, ma? Teresa fixed her daughter with a hard look. You helped with the sauce earlier, right? What did you do? I mean, I chopped the garlic, the onions, Gia began, glancing nervously at her friends who were now listening with mild curiosity. I did everything like you told me. I even put the tomatoes in. Teresa's eyes narrowed. Which tomatoes? Gia blinked, clearly confused by her mother's sudden intensity. The ones you had in the pantry. The cans of crushed tomatoes. They were in the back. Teresa felt a cold wave of dread wash over her. Slowly, she turned off the stove and walked to the pantry. Swinging the door open, she surveyed the shelves lined with various ingredients, her fingers trailing over the jars and cans until she froze. There, hidden behind a bag of pasta, was an unmistakable culprit, a jar of marinara sauce, store-bought. Her pulse quickened. Gia, she said, her voice low and dangerously calm, did you use this? Gia's eyes widened in horror as she saw what her mother was holding. Ma, no, I didn't. You used jarred sauce. Teresa's voice rose, cutting Gia off. The kitchen fell silent as everyone turned to watch the scene unfold. I didn't use that, I swear. Gia protested, her hands up as if warding off her mother's fury. Teresa held the jar up like it was a weapon. Then why is this open? Her voice echoed through the kitchen, vibrating with betrayal. One of Gia's friends, a boy with glasses who had clearly never been exposed to such intensity, cleared his throat nervously. It was me, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought it would save some time. Teresa's eyes snapped toward him. You thought it would save time, she repeated, her voice dangerously soft. Do you know how long I've been making this sauce? How many hours it takes to get it perfect? And you thought, what? A jar was going to help. The boy shrunk back, clearly regretting every life decision that had led him to this moment. I didn't mean to mess anything up. I just jarred sauce. Teresa exclaimed again, more to herself this time, as if she couldn't believe the words coming out of her own mouth. She threw her hands up in exasperation. Do you know how many Italian grandmothers just rolled over in their graves because of this? My own mother is probably yelling down from heaven right now. Gia stepped forward, trying to calm her down. Ma, it's just sauce. We can fix it. It's not the end of the world. Teresa turned on her, eyes flashing. It's not just sauce, Gia. It's family. It's tradition. It's years of making this the right way. I mean, jarred sauce. Are we that far gone now? The kitchen was still, the tension thick in the air. Teresa took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the insult to her culinary pride was too much to bear. She looked back at the jar, disgust plain on her face, and dumped it into the trash with a dramatic flair. Okay, fine, she said, turning back to the group. You want to eat that? Go ahead, but don't you dare call it Italian. Don't even call it food. Gia, trying to salvage the situation, quickly grabbed the wooden spoon and began stirring the pot again. We'll fix it, she promised, throwing in more fresh garlic and tomatoes, trying to bury the jarred taste. Teresa stood back, crossing her arms over her chest. It's not the same, she muttered under her breath, though a small part of her softened as she watched Gia frantically work to make things right. The guests stood awkwardly, unsure if they should help or just quietly fade into the background. One of the girls timidly offered, I'm sure it'll still taste great. Teresa shot her a look. We'll see. As the sauce simmered, the room slowly began to relax, conversations picking back up, but with a noticeable nervous energy. Teresa, still fuming but quieter now, leaned against the counter, watching over the sauce like a hawk. Next time, she muttered, just leave the sauce to me.